What I want to talk about today is something that I hope all of you, this thought crossed your mind. Definitely crossed my mind. And this is that today or tomorrow, Sukkot falls on October 7th. First day of Sukkot falls on October 7th. In Sukkot, we have different mitzvot. We need to sit in a sukkah. We need to eat in a sukkah. We need to use the 4 species, arba minim. But there's one mitzvah that is going to be extremely challenging this year. It's called V'samachta b'chagecha. When I prepared this class, again, it was before everything that is going on right now with the hashish, with the deal. I hope that it might be very easy to be V'samachta b'chagecha this year. And everything that I tell you might be totally, I hope, will be totally irrelevant by Sukkot. But given that we know the nature of our enemy, and we know that it's not going to be as easy, smooth, and simple, we should assume that still Sukkot is not going to be so easy for us. And especially it's not going to be easy for the families who will sit down in their sukkah, missing their loved ones. My father and mother-in-law were here for a week. They just flew back last night, back to Eretz Yisrael. And they're going to sit down in their sukkah for first day. And they're going to be one chair empty. And Avidan is not going to be there or here. And Avidan is not going to be sitting on this chair. And I had a conversation with my father-in-law. I asked him, Michael, how, if I may ask, how are you going to be, how can you fulfill the mitzvah of V'samachta b'chagecha? You shall be happy in your chag in Sukkot. This is a deoraisa mitzvah. Take a look at source number 1. You all have source sheets? If so, I think there's a little bit more there at the back. The Torah tells us, the festival of Sukkot shall you make for yourself 7 days, when you gather in from your threshing floor and from your winepress, and you shall rejoice in your festival. V'samachta b'chagecha. You, your son, your daughter, your manservant, your maidservant, your Levite, the stranger, the orphan, and the widow, who are in their gates. 7 days shall you rejoice before the Lord. Again, rejoice before the Lord your God, in the place that the Lord chooses. For the Lord God will bless you in all of your produce, and in all of which you put your hand, and you will be only happy. V'ha'ita ach sameach. And I asked him, how? Thank God, all of us here in this room don't need to answer this question and be in his shoes. I'll tell you his answer by the end of this class, because he gave me an answer, and this answer appears on the source sheet. But I think, because we know we're one big family, the Jewish people are one big family, Mi Ke'amcha Yisrael, that this question should cross our minds as well. How can we sit down this year, bless Shechayanu, sit in a sukkah, beautiful sukkah, Bezrat Hashem, this weather will continue, decorated, with our families, with our friends, on October 7th, and be happy? How is that even possible? Is there a way to force us to be happy? I cannot force you to feel something. Joel, I cannot tell you, Joel, be angry. It's not going to work. Here you go, right? Fake it till you make it. It's not going to work. I cannot tell you, Martin, be happy right now. You should be happy. How do you do that? It's impossible. Davida?
Is V'samachta in the imperative or future tense?
Hebrew, please. I'm not sure what imperative is.
Is it in the command voice? Like you have to?
Yes. V'samachta b'chagecha. And you shall rejoice. It's a mitzvah.
It's not just future tense, you will.
No, it's a mitzvah. It's a positive commandment that the rabbis have instructed as halacha. That's the only time, by the way, the only holiday we have that we have a commandment that says you shall be happy is on Sukkot. Not for no reason. Our enemies knew exactly when to attack us. They knew. They knew that Simchat Torah, even if their plan would not have been successful, unfortunately it was very successful, more than what they could even imagine. But even if it wouldn't be successful, they knew that attacking us on Simchat Torah, which has the word Simcha in the name of the holiday, will cause us to not be smechim in Simchat Torah for generations now. And Simchat Torah is not going to be the same. Doesn't matter how we turn it. Doesn't matter how good our dancing would be and our hakafot would be. It's just not going to be the same. And they knew that. And they were pretty successful in that. They were pretty successful. Unfortunately, they were pretty successful. So how can we do that? So when I asked this to my father-in-law, and he gave me his answer, which I will share with you shortly, I decided that I want to give this as a shiur to everyone. I took upon myself a journey. I wanted to learn the idea of Simcha on Sukkot. What does it mean to be Sameach on Sukkot? And I'll share with you all the sources that are on your source sheet, sources that I prepared and found from this journey, personal journey that I've went on, to try and understand how can I make myself happy on Sukkot. Because it's very hard. Extremely hard. The first answer that I saw wasn't as relevant, but it was still a little bit relevant to me. And it's an answer given by Maimonides, Rambam. The Rambam, Maimonides, says in source number 2, take a look. The Simcha that is mentioned in the regalim, in the 3 regalim, in the holidays, the festivals, is this of the Shalamim sacrifices. So we know that in the temple, in Beit HaMikdash, they had different sacrifices, different kinds of sacrifices. One kind of sacrifices is called Shalamim, from the word Shalem. What's Shalem in English? Whole, complete. Because it's a burnt offering that you burnt totally, completely. You don't leave any piece behind. Everything should be burnt. So he says the Simcha is of the Shalamim sacrifices. How come? One should sacrifice Shalamim in addition to the other Shalamim that he already sacrifices. Meaning it's a technical Simcha. It's not an emotional Simcha, says the Maimonides, the Rambam. He says, it's not something God cannot command us to be happy. Happiness is something spontaneous. It has to come from the heart. It can't be something that I'm forcing myself to do. So he has to explain it in a different way, and he explains it on a technical level. He says in Beit HaMikdash, in the temple, when they brought their sacrifices on Sukkot, they had to bring more. And that's called Simcha. That's called joy. It's not the human, spontaneous, emotional happiness that we often call Simcha. It's something very technical. You can bring those shalamim, those sacrifices, and still be a little bit depressed, and you will fulfill the mitzvah of the Chag, says the Rambam. However, he elaborates. In a different source, he says the following. Take a look. In one source, number 3, and one, says the Rambam, same one, is obligated to be joyful and of good heart on them. What's on them? He, his children, his wife, the member of his household, and all who accompany him. Says the Rambam, I cannot force you to be happy. God cannot force us to be happy. So bring more korbanot. But what is reasonable is for one to be happy about what he has in his household. Be grateful for the family you do have. Be grateful for the friends you have. Be grateful for the community you have. That's something that we can appreciate. Even now, when Sukkot will fall on October 7th, if we sit down in a sukkah and we see friends around the table, community members around the table, family, children, parents, spouses, grandkids around the table, this should bring us happiness. Despite the sorrow and the pain that we all feel. We can hold the stick in both sides. We can say on the one hand, yes, there is a lot of pain in Sukkot on October 7th. Of course there is. Of course there is. How couldn't there be? But we're also grateful and happy for what we do have. And we have. We have what to be happy for. So we must, says Rambam, the Simcha, he says, one is obligated to be joyful and of a good heart of them. Who of them? He, his children, his wife, and the member of his household, and all who accompany him. He says, and continue, skip to the last line in this paragraph. He says, included in that joy is for him, his children, and the member of his household to rejoice, everyone according to what is fit for him. He says, Kol echad kara'ui lo. He understands that this my simcha is not your simcha. And your simcha is not someone else's simcha. We're all in different stages in life. We all experienced different things this year. It wasn't an easy year for anyone. For anyone. We had happy things, Baruch Hashem, and unfortunately we had sad things going on. Over Yom Kippur morning, when I gave a breakout class here at Church Tefillah, I decided to talk about what I think is, for me at least, is one of the most unforgettable moments of this year. It was the funeral of the Bibas family. That's a moment I will carry with me probably until the end of my days. I think everyone in this room will not forget those redhead little kids. No one will forget them, and we shouldn't forget them. And I said this year had some happy stories. We had hostages coming back. Don't forget that. There were hostages who were not here last Yom Kippur, and they're here now with their families. There are hostages who were not there, couldn't sit with their families last Sukkot, but they are going to sit with their families now, which is a tremendous thing. But there are also very, very sad moments. Very, very sad. Each person experiences this year differently. And says the Rambam, we acknowledge this. And we understand that the Simcha cannot be unified. We understand that there must be differences. And each person must be happy and rejoice according to what is fit for him. So what I take from here, and that's maybe the first part of this journey, was that first of all, it's okay to feel pain on Sukkot. And it's okay to sit under the sukkah and feel sorrow and sadness over what happened, especially to my own personal family and for Klal Yisrael on October 7th. We don't ignore this. We don't whitewash it. We understand, we acknowledge it happens. And nevertheless, there is also a lot to be happy for. I'm going to sit under the sukkah, with my wife, 2 kids, family, or community members, and there's a lot to be grateful for. There's a lot to be grateful for. And it's something that I take upon myself when I'm going to sit down in Sukkah tomorrow night to acknowledge who's not with us, what we lost, but also what we have. It's important to appreciate what we have. It brings happiness on Sukkot. It brings happiness. Another idea of how to achieve the Simcha on Sukkot, also brought by Maimonides. Maimonides really engaged a lot in the idea of happiness. It really bothered him, which is very interesting why it bothered him so much. Take a look what he says down in source number 4. The children, he says, for example, how do you achieve happiness? The children, for example, should be given parched grain, nuts, and sweetmeats. Okay, so today you're going to call it candy. All right? So, you're going to call it candy. Even though, look, I brought Ivri to shul over Shabbos. Baruch Hashem at Church Tefillah, there are not more than 1, 2, 3 gentlemen who give away some candies for the kids. We don't have that in Israel, by the way. In the shul we go to, we don't have that. I mean, the RGLXC shul obviously don't have that. He's the only kid in shul because they're all university students. But even when we go to our parents or Prial's parents, no one is giving away candy. In Israel, I'll just say, really unrelated to what we're talking about, a couple of years ago, maybe more than a couple of years ago, like maybe a decade ago, there was a very sad story about one of the shuls in Israel, in Yerushalayim, where one of the men in shul gave out candies to children, and eventually they realized that he was also a sex assault. And that was his way to bring kids. Very, very, very sad story. And since then, in many places in Israel, they stopped giving away candy. Now, I think it's a beautiful thing to give away candy. But in Israel, there's a lot of sensitivity with this. And the parents don't want their kids to go to strangers and get candy from them. I think it's a beautiful idea. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a beautiful idea. I understand the sensitivity that there is in Israel. Totally not related to what we're talking about. But giving candy in shul is something that is very sensitive in Israel. So we don't have it in Israel so often. Some places have it, not where we go to. And here Ivri came on Shabbos, and they're like, so many people giving away candy, he couldn't handle this. He had so much candy. And I told him, like, Ivri, I don't know if you can eat all of this. Like, he doesn't usually eat so much candy. I think, where's Harvey, Michael, Joe, I think what we need to do here, just, mandate that instead of candy, you give away broccoli and vegetables and carrots and baby carrots and cucumbers. That will be great. Maybe no kids will come to shul anymore, right? That might happen. But I for sure will send Ivri to take some of those vegetables. Don't worry about that. But until then, until we get to the point where the Gabaim are handing out vegetables to kids, and they still give away, lollipops, says the Rambam, that's something you should do on Yontif because that's a way to bring happiness. And he continues. He says, the women folk should be presented with pretty clothes. Women folk, it's a very interesting word, right? The women folk, right? Let's say Nashim, the women folk, should be presented with pretty clothes and trinkets according to one's means. Go get your wife a nice dress for Sukkot. Go get your mother a nice dress for Sukkot. Or go get your granddaughter a nice dress for Sukkot. That's a way to be happy, right? So far, what do you see in common from those examples? They're all what? They're all giving. Giving away. Very good. Giving. Take a look, right? The menfolk, okay, should eat meat and drink wine. But not the women, guys. Not the women. No meat and wine for women here. No meat and wine for women. The men should eat meat and drink wine, for there is no real rejoicing without the use of meat and wine. Any vegetarians here? Here you go, Vanessa. Oh, Judith, really? I didn't know you're a vegetarian. Beyond meat is also okay. It's also, or impossible meat, whatever you prefer. While eating and drinking, take a look what the Rambam says. That's so important. While eating and drinking, one must feed the stranger, the orphan, the widow, and other poor unfortunates, he says. Anyone, however, who locks the doors of his courtyard and eats and drinks along with his wife and children without giving anything to eat and drink to the poor and the desperate, take a look how harsh the Rambam is here, does not observe a religious celebration, but indulges in the celebration of his stomach. Folks, this is almost 1,000 years old source. How relevant? What I understand from this Rambam, there's another way to achieve Simcha and Sukkot. Give. Just give. To your wife, your spouse, to your parents, to your children, to your grandkids. Go take your granddaughter to get a new dress for Sukkot. You'll see how she's happy. And the smile on her face will bring a smile on your face, for sure. Host for Sukkot. Be hosted. Let other people give and give yourself. There are people in need. Every community has people in need. Every community has people who are not sure how they will afford eating a Sukkot meal this year. Contact the shul. Ask them, can I donate even a small amount, something, for someone to eat? In every shul you go to, whatever you go to, the Gabaim, the shul knows the families who unfortunately are in need, and they know how to address this tzedakah money to be exactly given to those who will be using it for the meal for Sukkot. That will bring you a smile on your face. Even if it's not exactly a smile, but it will make you feel a little bit better because you actually celebrate Sukkot and the meaning of the Simcha. Says the Rambam, another way to achieve Simcha is to give. And if that's true for any year, it's especially true for this year as well. If you want another way to know how you can be happy on Sukkot, this year, when Sukkot falls on October 7th, give. Host. Share. With your own family, with your friends, with your community members. This year more than ever. More than ever. It's an important message. I want to read this sentence again because it's so important. Anyone, however, who locks the doors of his courtyard and eats and drinks along with his wife and children without giving anything to eat and drink to the poor and the desperate does not observe a religious celebration but indulges in the celebration of his stomach. Remember this. Another idea of how to achieve the Simcha on Sukkot, as part of the journey that I went on, I found in a book called Aruch HaShulchan. Aruch HaShulchan was written about 250 years ago, 300 years ago, by Michael Yechiel Epstein, who was a very, very great Talmid Chacham in Europe, in the Ashkenazi world, in Poland. And he wrote a book called Aruch HaShulchan, which is exactly the opposite of Shulchan Aruch, which is the main codex that we have in the halachic world. He wrote Aruch HaShulchan, which, same thing like Shulchan Aruch, covers the entire halachic world in the Jewish world. And he wrote the following thing. There's a halacha, and I think you all know this, that we don't go to weddings on Chol HaMoed. We don't do weddings on Chol HaMoed, right? Jews don't get married on Chol HaMoed. Now, why is it? It's so happy. Why not? Let's have more celebrations on Chol HaMoed. Like, what can be more beautiful than going to a wedding on Chol HaMoed? That's beautiful. Now, it might be a little bit, logistically might be challenging with a sukkah. Well, host, like everyone going to sit in a sukkah. It's a little bit challenging if you have a lot of guests. But the idea here is like, why not? If this is time of joy, if this is time of Simcha, why not celebrating weddings on Chol HaMoed? Why not doing so? What's the reason? And he says the following. Source number 6. One cannot marry during Chol HaMoed. What's the reason? You'll be shocked. What's the reason? As it says, and you shall rejoice in your festival, and we are not allowed to combine celebrations. Or in Hebrew, Ein me'arvin simcha besimcha. We don't combine one simcha with another. It's a very important phrase to remember. Ein me'arvin simcha besimcha. By the way, it's true. It's a good lesson in general in life. If you go to your friend's birthday, for example, right? Make sure the focus is on your friend. Even if you had an amazing news, you have a new grandkid, new grandchild, you're so happy, and you were invited to your friend's birthday. Don't turn this into your own celebration. Let her or him celebrate their own birthday. Ein me'arvin simcha besimcha. It's a very important Jewish rule. It's halacha. Halacha. It's not a suggestion. Halacha. You go to a celebration, you go to a party, you go to a simcha, enjoy that simcha. You will have time to enjoy and rejoice in your own simcha too. We don't combine celebrations. For that very reason, says Aruch HaShulchan, we do not marry on Chol HaMoed. Because the simcha is one hand, the simcha of the Chag of Chol HaMoed is one kind of simcha, and weddings are another kind of simcha, and we do not combine. We do not combine them. So how do I achieve simcha? What is this kind of simcha if I cannot? We all know what simcha is when we go to a wedding. It's a very specific simcha. We know why we're happy. We know why we're there, especially if we're a family. Sometimes if you're a long distant friend and you're invited to a wedding, sometimes it's even a schlep to go there and you not really want to, and it's too light and it's far, it's in Concord. Why do I need to drive all the way and I have work tomorrow, and like why all weddings are on Sunday for some reason, and so on and so on and so on and so on. But most weddings we're happy to go to. We know where we're happy. So what kind of happiness is it when we are actually in Chol HaMoed? And the beautiful thing is that Aruch HaShulchan doesn't explain to us what Simcha it is. He just says, don't combine it with other smachot. Why doesn't he explain to us what Simcha it is? Because you can't. Because you can't. Because unlike a wedding, which you know exactly what you're happy for, and everyone who came to the wedding are happy for the same reason, on Chol HaMoed, each of us can be happy for a different reason. Each of us were very different people. Very different. The saying goes that Keshem shepartzufehen shonim, kach deotehen shonot. Just like their faces are different, so too are their opinions. And it's okay that what makes me happy doesn't make Danny happy. Maybe some things make us happy together. I mean, Nadav makes me happy, and he makes you happy too, right? But some things make me happy, and some things doesn't make you happy. What makes Terry happy doesn't necessarily make me happy. And it says, Pninei Halacha Rav Melamed the following in source number 7. It is a mitzvah on Chol HaMoed, on Sukkot, to participate in whatever activities one generally enjoys. It's a mitzvah. Like singing, dancing, and going on outings. Whatever outing you think you can go to. Meaning, you cannot force a person to be sameach on the Chag for a specific reason. That's why we don't go to weddings on Chol HaMoed. We don't combine. Everyone is happy for the same reason. On Chol HaMoed, each and every one of us is commanded to be happy or do things that we know generally make us happy. I got a shaila, a question, by actually someone in Toronto earlier this week. He asked me if he can go fishing on Chol HaMoed. Those of you in Church Philip probably know who I'm talking about. But he asked me if he can go fishing on Chol HaMoed. Now, why would that be a problem, go fishing on Chol HaMoed? Because on Chol HaMoed, we're not allowed to do labor that is usually done on a regular weekday, right? So, for example, I told my students, my university students, they're not allowed to study for tests and exams on Chol HaMoed. Some rabbis hold that you're not allowed to write with pen and pencil on Chol HaMoed. Chol HaMoed is still Moed. Chol HaMoed. It's Chol, it's mundane, but it's also Moed. It's not a regular day. There is a tshuva by Rabbi Moshe Feinstein that explains and gives a heter for all of you to go work on Chol HaMoed. I know, because in Israel, it's free. But when you live outside of Israel, Nebech, part of being in the Galus is that you have to work on Chol HaMoed. Also on Fridays. But you get a Sunday, so it's okay. So Rabbi Moshe has a tshuva about how can one go to work on Chol HaMoed if it's actually forbidden. So this guy asked me, can I go fishing on Chol HaMoed? Because fishing is not allowed because it's a labor. It's not allowed. You're not allowed to go fishing on Shabbos, for example, so you wouldn't be allowed to do it on Chol HaMoed. So I told him, actually, no, you cannot. But he said, but I do it because it gives me joy. So I told him, yes, you can do that. Because of this halacha. Because you should rejoice in your Chag. And you should do things that make you happy. And each and every one of you should ask yourself, what makes me happy? What should I do on Chol HaMoed? Do things that make you happy. You like to paint? Paint. You like to listen to music? Listen to music. You like to dance? Dance. Do whatever makes you happy. You want to go to a concert? Go to a concert. I don't know what plays are there now in Prince William Theater, whatever you call it, Edward, William, Charles, whatever. Vanessa here, she's British, she can tell me whatever it is. I don't know, but go to a theater. Is that what makes you happy? Do things that make you happy. Obviously, skiing is not an option now, so there's no skiing. Sorry, Ira. But do what makes you happy, and that's the way. Yeah, don't. I'm not gonna say anything. Yeah. Sorry. No. Nothing. No snow. Do what makes you happy, and that's how we can be happy on Sukkot. So that's true. It's gonna be hard, but we all know what the little things that make us happy during the week. Do them on Chol HaMoed. Do them on Sukkot, and try to hold on to them. Because those little things are going to make us happy at the end of the day. Now I want to get to what my father-in-law told me. When I asked this to my father-in-law, Michael, first of all, you have to say, I'm very brave to ask this to my father-in-law. It's not a simple question to ask. We have, Baruch Hashem, really, thank God, we have really, really, really good relationship. So I felt open to ask him this, and I'm glad I did. Because he gave me a very good insight. I asked them, Michael, how are you going to sit down in the sukkah? It was very important for them. I'll give you a little background. They came with us here to Toronto for Yom Kippur and Shabbos. As Baruch Hashem, as you walked in, maybe if you saw, there's a new entranceway at Shari Tefillah. If you noticed, that was dedicated by different families. They renovated the entire entranceway in memory of different people. So my father and mother-in-law also participated and dedicated it also in memory of Avidan, which I'm going to talk about him in a moment. So they came here also to be part of the inauguration and to thank the community to Shari Tefillah for really a lot of the things that Shari Tefillah has been doing for the past 2 years in support of the Turgeman family and of Priel and myself. And it was very important to them when they booked the ticket. It was very important for them to be back for Sukkot. I told them, why not stay for Sukkot? At least for the first day, fly back on Chol HaMoed. Like, why do you want to be back in Israel for the first day of Sukkot? Like, just stay with us one more day. It's really a problem because they had to fly last night. Because if you fly today, you're not going to make it on time for Chag tomorrow night and so on. So it was a very, very tight time to fly back to Israel. I said, why are you in a rush? Stay for the first Chag. You can also fly on the second day of Yom Tov. You're not keeping 2 days. Fly on Wednesday and that's it. They said it's very important for them to come back to Israel. I didn't ask him why. But when I asked him, how are you going to be happy on Sukkot? Then I understood, by his answer, I understood why they went back to Israel. You know what he told me? He told me, Dan, I'm going back to Israel. We're going back to Israel for Sukkot because we want to surround ourselves with people who are happy. He said, I don't know how I will be happy on Sukkot. I don't know how I will sit under the sukkah with family when Avidan is not there. And Sukkot specifically is a very challenging chag for them because Avidan, you see from the pictures, was a very, very tall guy. And my father-in-law is not so tall. And he needed help putting up the sukkah every year. And he was the go-to. Every year, Avidan would come and help him put up the schach and put up the sukkah and build it. And I remember first sukkahs last year, my mother-in-law was like, so who's going to help me now? Like, what I'm going to do? She really didn't know what to do. So we all came, we all helped her build up the sukkah, and we did it together, but it was really, really hard. So Sukkot specifically has, like, building up the sukkah has like a very, very emotional place in their heart for Avidan. And he said, I don't know how I will feel in Sukkot. I don't know how I will be happy. I don't know how I will be able to fulfill the mitzvah of V'samachta b'chagecha. But what I do know is that when I'm in Israel, when I'm home, I will be able to surround myself with other people who are happy. And if I surround myself with other people who are happy, something probably will also, little bit, impact me. Because when you surround yourself with people who are happy, you cannot just stand by yourself and be sad. You can't. You have to be happy with them. It's contagious. It's contagious. And he said, I want to be back in Israel for Sukkot because I know that the people in my kibbutz are going to embrace me and they're going to be very happy, and I want to be happy with them too. And when he told me that, it brought up to my mind a source, an interesting parable given by Reb Nachman of Breslov. Reb Nachman of Breslov, in source number 8, says the following thing. He says, on the topic of Simcha, he says, source number 8, there is an analogy, a parable. Sometimes, he says, when people are happy and dance, they grab someone standing outside the circle who is depressed and gloomy. Against his will, they bring him into the circle of dancers. Against his will, they force him to be happy along with them. Think about the wedding. Everyone is dancing in circles like Jews usually do. And if you don't want to dance, and sometimes you don't feel like dancing in a wedding, I just want to sit down and eat. More bread, more stuff. I don't know. But someone pulls you into the circle of dancers. You're not going to be able to stand like that and I'll move. No one will be able to move, right? So you move. You don't want to, but you move. You dance a little bit. So you don't smile, but slowly you smile, and slowly the moving is not being forced, but you actually choose to do it, and you dance, and you move, and something has changed because he forced you into the circle of dancers, so you cannot stand still. Says Reb Nachman of Breslov, it is the same with happiness. When a person is happy, he says, when a person is happy, gloom and suffering stand aside. Yet, he says, greater still is to gather courage to actually pursue gloom. Wait, that's not what I want to do. Sorry, that's not what I'm looking for. Here, look at the end. It is like a person, jump to this sentence. It is like a person who comes to a celebration. The abundant joy and happiness then transforms all his worries, depression, and gloom into joy. And he says, we find that he has grabbed the gloom and introduced it against its will into joy, as in the aforementioned analogy. And I learned it from my father-in-law. He said, when I'm going to surround myself with happy people, I won't be able to be sad. They're all going to be happy and I'm going to be sad. Like I'm going to stop the happiness. It's just naturally, I will join the circles of happiness, the circle of dancing. And just like the dancer who starts moving, I will start being happy. First of all, it's not going to be a real, honest happiness. Just like the dancer, it's not really wants to dance. But slowly, it starts to become very, very honest. Very, very honest. And when he told me that, that's the reason they came back to Israel. That's the reason they wanted to be back in Israel for Sukkot. I told myself, so I love my home in Israel and I love my community. But I told Priel after he told me that, told her, not for no reason, and when we booked the ticket, we didn't pay attention to that, but not for no reason we are here in this community in Toronto on Sukkot for October 7th. Because we are able, Priel and myself and our kids are able to surround ourselves with happy people. And being here on October 7th, all of you, is what makes us happy. Being here is what makes us happy. So it's not that we force myself to be happy. I'm not going to force myself to be happy. I understand there's going to be sorrow, there's going to be pain, it's going to be hard. There might be tears and it's okay. But I'm not going to stand still and be sad when everyone around me tries to make me happy. Because it's contagious. It's contagious. And it's a good form of happiness. At the back table, before you leave, there are different stickers and pictures of Avidan, Hashem yikon damo. I told this story once, twice, 3 times. I was going to tell it until the end of my days. But Avidan went to the Nova Festival for one reason. He didn't go to party. He liked to party. He went to different festivals all over the world. But to the Nova Festival, the reason he went there, and he went there at 5:30 a.m. An hour before the attack started. That's when he got there, 5:30 a.m. He got there to help them disassemble the stage. He was there on Thursday to help them build the stage at the festival. If you went to the Nova exhibition in Toronto, you could see that on the stage they brought, you see the name, Avidan's name. So that's the real stage they built. They brought it from the Nova site and they presented here at the exhibition. They have Avidan's name on it. He was one of the group, one of the 3 guys who also built up the stage together. All the 3 were murdered together underneath the stage, hidden. That very stage. And he went back there to help people take off the props in the stage that he helped building. The only reason he went to the Nova Festival in the first place is to make other people happy. That's the reason he was there. He didn't want to be happy himself. He came there to build a stage to make people happy at a music festival, to help them totally voluntarily. He didn't get paid for that. He went them to help and build a stage so music can be played and people can dance and rejoice and be happy. And that's where he found his death. Told you, it's happiness and sadness together. But there is one thing I take from this, and I want to ask you to take from this too, when you pass by and you take one of his beautiful attributes that really characterize who he was, is the idea that we need to make sure we care about other people in our community who are not necessarily happy. And if you say to yourself, I don't know how to make other people happy, that's your answer. The answer is be happy yourself. Attach yourself to someone who's gloomy and depressed and not happy, and eventually he will be happy as well. Eventually he will be happy as well. He lived like that. He was a light tower. That's exactly what he lived according to. He wanted to make people happy. That's where he found his death. My father-in-law and my mother-in-law are back in Israel to be surrounded by people who are happy so they can be happy. My wife and I and my kids are here surrounded by happy people so we can be happy. If you're not happy, surround yourself with people who are happy this Chag. And if Baruch Hashem you are able to be happy, then attach yourself. Connect to people who are not so happy. Talk to them, help them, be with them. I promise you, maybe not at the first chance, maybe not the second chance, maybe after, but they will be happy too. I want to wish you all a Chag Sameach. V'samachta b'chagecha. Don't forget this commandment, this Chag. The fact that October 7th falls on Sukkot doesn't mean that this Chag shouldn't be happy. This commandment is still exists, and we still need to fulfill it. And I hope that when I shared with you my journey, you will be able to take at least one thing from this journey and make yourself also happy on Sukkot. So thank you very much for coming, and I want to wish you all a Chag Sameach.